The Galactic Council's grand chamber, a sprawling cathedral of alien architecture, buzzed with the hushed conversations of delegates from countless star systems. The air shimmered faintly with holographic projections of distant worlds and alien scripts that floated in defiance of gravity. Towering insectoid beings clicked their mandibles in whispered debates. Serpentine creatures coiled lazily around their podiums, and luminous, jellyfish-like entities pulsated with light as they communicated in flashes of color. This was a place where alliances were forged, betrayals plotted, and the fate of entire civilizations decided. For centuries, the Council had maintained order in the galaxy through a fragile balance of power and diplomacy. Yet, beneath the veneer of unity, distrust and rivalry simmered. It was into this maelstrom that Earth had sent its first diplomat, Jonathan Hale. Humanity was a newcomer to the interstellar stage, their discovery of faster-than-light travel a mere 3 decades old. Despite their technological leaps, Earth was viewed by the Council as a primitive, unpredictable world, a species more likely to destroy itself than contribute meaningfully to galactic society. Jonathan Hale was aware of these perceptions as he approached the central dais, his footsteps echoing through the chamber. He was a stark contrast to the towering and exotic beings surrounding him, a lone human clad in a tailored navy blue suit. His clean-shaven face and calm demeanor betrayed none of the tension coiled within him. This was not just a diplomatic mission. It was a test, a chance to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. Esteemed members of the Council, Jonathan began, his voice steady and clear, carrying through the chamber with practiced ease. I stand before you not as a representative of Earth alone, but as a bridge between our worlds. Humanity seeks peace, collaboration, and an opportunity to learn from the wisdom of this illustrious assembly. His words were met with a wave of murmurs. The reactions varied. Some delegates leaned forward, intrigued, while others recoiled, their disdain evident. A serpentine delegate with emerald scales hissed audibly, her forked tongue flickering as she whispered to her neighbor, "Peace, from a species that has warred with itself for millennia." An avian-like delegate, his feathers shimmering with iridescent hues, cawed in agreement. "Their history is soaked in blood. They are a danger to us all." Jonathan's expression remained neutral, but his sharp eyes caught every movement, every subtle gesture of disapproval. He had spent months studying the Council's members, memorizing their cultures, their histories, their biases. He knew that convincing them would be an uphill battle, but he had come prepared. "Your concerns are valid," he continued, acknowledging the murmurs without hesitation. "Humanity's past is marked by conflict, but it is also defined by resilience, innovation, and a capacity for growth. Judge us not by the mistakes of our ancestors, but by the potential we bring to this council." A crystalline delegate, a being whose translucent form refracted light into dazzling patterns, spoke telepathically, its voice resonating in the minds of all present. "Potential is dangerous when unchecked. Your species' rapid technological advancement is alarming. How can we trust you to wield such power responsibly?" Jonathan's gaze shifted to the crystalline delegate, his tone unwavering. "Trust is earned, not given. That is why I am here, to demonstrate that humanity is willing to learn, to adapt, and to contribute to the greater good of this galaxy." The chamber fell silent for a moment, the delegates exchanging glances. Jonathan knew he had struck a chord, but the skepticism in the room was palpable. These beings had seen civilizations rise and fall, had witnessed the destructive potential of ambition unchecked. To them, humanity was an enigma, a wild card that could tip the balance of power in unpredictable ways. From the back of the chamber, a towering insectoid delegate with multifaceted eyes clicked his mandibles, his voice a series of harsh, chittering sounds translated into speech by a floating holographic device. "Words are cheap, human. What actions will your species take to prove its intentions?" Jonathan paused, letting the question hang in the air. He knew this was the crux of the issue. The Council wanted assurances, tangible proof that humanity could be trusted, and he had come prepared to offer them just that. Earth has already begun taking steps to align itself with the values of the Council, Jonathan replied. "We have established interstellar trade agreements, implemented environmental protections on a planetary scale, and invested in cultural exchange programs to foster mutual understanding." Before he could continue, a sudden high-pitched whine filled the chamber. The lights flickered, and the holographic projections wavered as if disturbed by an unseen force. The delegates looked around, their expressions ranging from confusion to alarm. Jonathan's instincts flared, his years of training in covert operations kicking in. Something was wrong. From the rafters above, a sleek, insectoid figure descended with lethal precision. Its appendages gleamed like obsidian blades, and its compound eyes glinted with a predatory light. The assassin moved with inhuman speed, its target clear, the human envoy standing at the center of the chamber. Jonathan's reaction was instantaneous. As the assassin lunged, he sidestepped gracefully, grabbing one of its serrated limbs and twisting it with a sickening crack. The creature screeched, its attack thwarted, but Jonathan was already moving. In one fluid motion, he produced a concealed blade from his sleeve and drove it into the assassin's thorax. The creature collapsed, its lifeless body hitting the ground with a heavy thud. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates recoiled in horror, not at the assassin, but at Jonathan's brutal efficiency. This was no ordinary diplomat. The speed, the precision, the cold calculation, it was something else entirely. What are you?" stammered a crystalline delegate, their form flickering with unease. Dioglobe whispered a starting speech. Jonathan straightened, his eyes cold and unyielding. "I am the envoy of Earth," he said evenly. "Did you think we would send someone unprepared?" The whispers spread like wildfire through the chamber. The assassin was one of the Council's elite, a creature trained to eliminate targets with ruthless precision. Yet this human had dispatched it effortlessly. Suspicion and fear rippled through the assembly. From the shadows, more figures emerged, heavily armed guards, their weapons trained on Jonathan. The true nature of the attack became clear. This was no rogue act of violence. It was a calculated move by a faction within the Council to eliminate humanity's envoy and send a message to Earth. Jonathan's jaw tightened as he assessed the situation. The guards' postures, the placement of their weapons, the subtle shifts in the delegates' expressions, it all painted a picture of treachery. He sighed, a hint of disappointment flickering across his face. "You should have chosen diplomacy," he said quietly. In the blink of an eye, Jonathan's demeanor shifted. Gone was the measured diplomat. In his place stood a predator. He moved with blinding speed, disarming the nearest guard with a single fluid motion. Their weapon clattered to the ground as Jonathan turned it against them, firing a precise shot that disabled another attacker. Panic spread through the chamber. Delegates scrambled to retreat, their fear palpable. Jonathan's movements were a blur, every strike and counterstrike executed with an almost supernatural grace. It was clear that he was no ordinary human. "What is he?" a delegate screamed, as Jonathan incapacitated a hulking enforcer with a well-placed blow. The answer came from a trembling delegate in the outer ring of the chamber, a being with deep knowledge of Earth's myths. "The humans have legends," the delegate whispered, their voice quivering. "Stories of a shadow who brings death. They call him the Baba Yaga." The name spread like wildfire through the chamber. Baba Yaga, a name spoken in hushed tones even among humans, synonymous with unstoppable vengeance and unrelenting determination. The delegates stared at Jonathan in a mixture of awe and terror. Jonathan stood amidst the carnage, his suit barely ruffled, his eyes scanning the room with cold detachment. "Let this be Earth's first lesson to the Council," he said, his voice calm but laced with menace. "We seek peace, but if you come for us, you will find something far worse." The remaining guards hesitated, their weapons trembling in their hands. No one dared to move. The chamber was silent, save for the faint hum of the Council's holographic projections. Jonathan turned and strode toward the exit, the massive doors opening before him. As they closed behind him, the delegates were left to grapple with a chilling truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated, and their envoy was no mere man. He was the Baba Yaga. The Galactic Council's grand chamber exuded an aura of history and power, its towering architecture a testament to the millennia of cooperation and conflict that had shaped the galaxy. Here, the weight of decisions rippled across star systems, altering the fate of countless civilizations. Jonathan Hale had stepped into this sanctum as an emissary of Earth. But now the room buzzed with whispers and unease. The term Baba Yaga floated among the delegates like an unspoken accusation, laden with fear and curiosity. As the massive doors closed behind him, the Council's members sat in stunned silence, their collective gaze fixed on the lifeless bodies of the assassin and the guards. The air was thick with tension, a palpable reminder that the human envoy had not only survived, but had triumphed against overwhelming odds. "Let this be Earth's first lesson to the Council. We seek peace, but if you come for us, you will find something far worse." In the aftermath, the Council's inner circle convened in a private chamber. This smaller room, though no less ornate, was designed for confidential discussions. A holographic table projected the galaxy's star map, its constellations shimmering in the dim light. Around the table sat representatives of the galaxy's most powerful factions, the crystalline luminal collective, the militaristic Kalor Dominion, the Serpentino Rivin conglomerate, and others. Each delegate's expression betrayed a mix of trepidation and intrigue. "We underestimated the humans," hissed Lady Zoltris of the Oravan, her emerald scales catching the light as she coiled tighter around her seat. "Their envoy is not merely a diplomat. He is a weapon. A weapon with precision and discipline," added General Torvek of the Kalor, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming like polished obsidian. The speed and efficiency with which he neutralized the assassin were extraordinary. The crystalline representative Luminaris pulsed softly as they spoke. "This Jonathan Hale is an anomaly. He does not align with our understanding of human capabilities. Their species has shown potential, yes, but this is something else entirely." A heavy silence fell over the room as each delegate considered the implications. Humanity's sudden rise to interstellar prominence had already disrupted the delicate balance of power within the Council. Now the revelation of Earth's envoy as a formidable operative added a new layer of complexity. "If one human can do this," mused Lady Zoltris, her forked tongue flickering, "what else are they capable of?" Meanwhile, aboard the Terran diplomatic vessel, Jonathan Hale sat in his quarters, a Spartan yet functional space aboard the U.S. Concordia, Earth's state-of-the-art diplomatic vessel. The hum of the ship's engines provided a soothing backdrop as he reviewed the events of the day. A holographic interface displayed a detailed report on the Council's members, their alliances, and their likely motivations. Jonathan's mind worked methodically, analyzing every detail with the precision of a tactician. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. And the door slid open to reveal Captain Elena Morgan, the Concordia's commanding officer. Dressed in her crisp uniform, she exuded an air of authority tempered by years of experience. "Jonathan," she began, her tone serious, We've intercepted some troubling communications from the Council. It seems today's events have shaken them more than we anticipated. Jonathan gestured for her to sit, his expression unreadable. Go on. Oh. Elena took a seat across from him, her hands clasped tightly. There's talk of Earth being a threat to galactic stability. Some factions are already pushing for sanctions, others for more drastic measures. Jonathan's lips curled into a faint, humorless smile. Of course they are. The Council fears what it cannot control. Council, and what about you? Elena asked, her gaze piercing. The Baba Yaga myth. You didn't deny it. Is there truth to it? Jonathan leaned back in his chair, his eyes distant. The Baba Yaga is just a story, Captain. A cautionary tale passed down through generations. But every story has a kernel of truth. Let's just say I've had training that most humans haven't. Elena frowned but didn't press further. She had seen enough during her years in the military to know that some answers were better left undiscovered. What's our next move? She asked. Jonathan's gaze hardened. We stay the course. Earth cannot afford to back down now. The Council needs to understand that we are not prey. If they respect strength, then strength is what we will show them. The hidden threat. Unbeknownst to the crew of the Concordia, another meeting was taking place within the depths of the Galactic Council's archives. This shadowy chamber, far removed from the grandeur of the main hall, was where the Council's darkest secrets were kept. Ancient records, forbidden technologies, and contingency plans were stored here, accessible only to a select few. A cloaked figure moved silently through the archives, their form concealed by a shimmering veil of light. They stopped before a massive data bank, their gloved hands activating a hidden console. The holographic interface sprang to life, displaying a series of classified files. Humanity? The figure murmured, their voice distorted by a voice modulator. A species that rose too quickly, that reached too far. They are a threat to the balance we have maintained for millennia. Who? Josh said, then laughed aloud. The figure accessed a file labeled Project Erasio. The screen displayed a chilling directive. Neutralize Earth's influence by any means necessary. The figure's fingers danced across the console, transmitting the data to an unknown recipient. The Council may hesitate, but we will not. The human envoy must be eliminated, and Earth must be reminded of its place. The discovery. As the Concordia drifted in orbit around the Council's central station, its crew remained unaware of the storm brewing around them. But Jonathan Hale sensed it. Years of operating in the shadows had honed his instincts, and he knew that today's events had set something in motion. Something dangerous. He stared out the viewport at the stars, his reflection superimposed on the endless expanse of space. Behind him, the door to his quarters slid open again, and this time it was Dr. Evelyn Carter, Earth's foremost xenobiologist and a key member of the diplomatic mission. You're not sleeping, she observed, her tone both concerned and accusatory. Jonathan turned to face her, his expression softening slightly. Too much to think about. Evelyn crossed her arms. You've done enough thinking for one day. You need rest, Jonathan. You're not invincible. Aren't I? He replied with a hint of sarcasm, though his smile didn't reach his eyes. The Council seems to think I'm some kind of mythic figure. Maybe I should lean into it. Evelyn sighed, her frustration evident. You're human, Jonathan, and that's not a weakness. It's what makes you who you are. Don't lose sight of that. Jonathan nodded, though her words lingered uncomfortably in his mind. He had spent years becoming something more than human, something that could protect Earth from the threats it now faced, but in doing so, Had he lost a part of himself? As Evelyn left, Jonathan turned back to the stars. The galaxy was vast and unforgiving, but he was determined. Humanity had taken its first steps into the unknown, and he would ensure that those steps would not falter. Yet, even as he stood resolute, a whisper of doubt crept into his thoughts. Was strength alone enough to secure Earth's future? Or would it lead them down a path of no return? For now there were no answers, only the promise of discovery and the challenges that lay ahead. The Concordia hung in the void of space like a solitary sentinel, its sleek silver hull reflecting the dim light of a distant star. Within its walls, the tension was palpable. Jonathan Hale, Earth's envoy, had become the epicenter of a storm that could reshape the galaxy. The Galactic Council, rattled by the events of the previous day, was already stirring with plots and counterplots. For Jonathan, the stakes had never been higher. He sat in the ship's war room, a stark chamber dominated by a holographic table displaying the Council's central station and surrounding sectors. Around him were the key members of the Earth delegation, Captain Alina Morgan, Dr. Evelyn Carter, and Lieutenant Commander Marcus Reyes, the ship's tactical officer. The atmosphere was heavy, the air charged with unspoken fears. "The Council's response is critical," Elena began, her voice steady but tinged with concern. "We've already intercepted fragments of communication suggesting that certain factions view yesterday's events as justification for sanctions against Earth. Others are calling for more aggressive measures." Jonathan's gaze was fixed on the hologram, his mind racing. "Aggressive measures? You mean preemptive strikes?" Elena nodded grimly. "The Kalor Dominion is leading the charge. They've always been wary of humanity's rapid technological advancement. Yesterday only confirmed their fears." Marcus leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "We need to show them that attacking Earth would be a mistake, a show of strength, perhaps." "That wouldn't be good technicality," Marcus protested. "All that's fine and very effective," Marcus said. Jonathan shook his head. "Strength alone won't win this battle. The Council's members are masters of diplomacy and deception. We need to outthink them, not outgun them." Evelyn, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Then what's the plan? Because right now, it feels like we're playing catch-up." Jonathan's lips curved into a faint smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "We need leverage. Something that forces the Council to reconsider their stance. And I think I know where to start. The hidden archives." The Galactic Council's central station was a labyrinth of corridors, chambers, and hidden passageways. Beneath its polished facade lay the archives, a vast repository of knowledge and secrets guarded jealously by the Council's elite. It was here that Jonathan intended to find the leverage he needed. Under the cover of darkness, Jonathan slipped into the station's restricted zones. Clad in a stealth suit that rendered him nearly invisible, he moved like a shadow, his movements precise and deliberate. The suit's integrated AI whispered updates in his ear, guiding him through the maze of corridors. "Target location is 3 levels down," the AI intoned. "Minimal guard presence detected. Proceed with caution." Jonathan's mind was a steel trap, every step calculated. He'd infiltrated countless facilities during his years in Earth's Covert Operations Division, but this mission was different. The stakes were higher, the risks greater. If he was caught, it wouldn't just be his life on the line, it would be Earth's future. Reaching the entrance to the archives, Jonathan paused. 2 guards, hulking Kalor enforcers, stood watch. Their exoskeletons gleamed under the dim light, and their plasma rifles hummed softly. Jonathan assessed the situation, his mind running through scenarios. With practiced ease, he activated the suit's decoy protocol. A faint shimmer appeared down the corridor, drawing the guards' attention. As they moved to investigate, Jonathan slipped past them, his movements silent as a whisper. Inside the archives, the air was cool and heavy, the walls lined with shelves of crystalline data modules. The room was a cathedral of knowledge, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into shadows. Jonathan moved quickly, his hands gliding over the interface of a central console. Dr. Fitzwilliam. Search parameters? The AI prompted. Council contingency plans. Anything related to Earth, Jonathan replied. The console whirred softly as it processed his request. Moments later, a series of files appeared, their titles glowing faintly. Jonathan's eyes narrowed as he scanned them. One file caught his attention. Project Erasure. The name alone sent a chill down his spine. Opening it, he found detailed plans for the systematic destabilization of Earth, economic sabotage, covert assassinations, and, if necessary, planetary bombardment. The scope of the plan was staggering. "They've been preparing for this," Jonathan muttered, his jaw tightening. "They never intended to let us join the Council. We were always a target." He copied the files onto a secure data drive, his mind already formulating the next steps. But as he prepared to leave, a soft sound, the faintest shuffle of movement, made him freeze. Someone else was in the archives. A dangerous encounter. Jonathan turned slowly, his hand hovering near the concealed blade in his suit. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in a flowing garment that seemed to ripple like liquid darkness. Their face was obscured by a mask, its surface smooth and featureless. "You've gone too far, human," the figure said, their voice distorted and hollow. "The Council will not tolerate this intrusion." Jonathan's stance shifted subtly, his body coiled like a spring. "And who are you to speak for the Council?" The figure tilted their head, a gesture that might have been amusement. "I am a keeper of balance, and you, Jonathan Hale, are a disruption." And they moved with blinding speed, their weapons sliding over one another as they moved in front of the kitchen air and onto the large mantelpiece farther down the hall. Materializing in an instant, Jonathan countered, his own blade meeting theirs with a crackle of energy. The two figures clashed in a dance of precision and power, their movements too fast for the untrained eye to follow. Jonathan's training was evident, his strikes calculated and lethal, but his opponent was no less skilled, their movements fluid and unpredictable. The fight was a stalemate, each combatant testing the other's limits. "You're good," Jonathan said, his voice steady despite the exertion. "But I've faced worse." The figure didn't reply, their focus unwavering. As the battle continued, Jonathan spotted an opening, a fraction of a second where their guard dropped. Exploiting it, he disarmed them, his blade poised at their throat. "Who sent you?" he demanded. The figure's mask hid any expression, but their voice carried a note of defiance. "You're out of your depth, human. You may have won this battle, but the war is just beginning." Before Jonathan could press further, the figure activated a small device on their wrist. In a flash of light, they vanished, leaving him alone in the archives. Jonathan looked around for his wife, but she was no longer there. The revelation. Back aboard the Concordia, Jonathan convened an emergency meeting with his team. The data he had retrieved was displayed on the war room's holographic table, the grim details laid bare. "Project Erasure," Jonathan said, his voice hard. "The Council has been planning our destruction for years. Yesterday's events were just an excuse to accelerate their timeline." Alina's expression was a mixture of anger and disbelief. "They've already deployed agents to destabilize Earth, economic systems, political structures. They're targeting everything." Evelyn shook her head, her voice trembling. "This goes beyond fear. They see us as a threat to their control. They won't stop until we're eliminated." Jonathan's gaze swept over his team, his resolve unshaken. "Then, We need to show them that humanity won't go down without a fight. We'll expose this to the galaxy, force the Council to answer for their actions." Marcus frowned. "And what if that's not enough? What if they double down?" Jonathan's eyes burned with determination. "Then we'll remind them why they should fear us. Not as a threat, but as a force that refuses to be broken." The team nodded, their doubts replaced by a shared resolve. The road.